A woman loved by millions, an orca she trusted more than anyone else, and a betrayal so sudden, so devastating, that it shocked the entire world. This is the story of Jessica Radcliffe, an elite killer whale trainer whose life was defined by passion, trust, and dedication to the animals she adored. It's also the story of how, in a single moment, that trust was shattered forever, changing the face of marine entertainment around the globe. Jessica's journey began far from the ocean. She was born and raised in Indiana, a landlocked state, surrounded by fields, not waves. But from the time she was a little girl, she dreamed of the sea. She told her parents again and again, "One day I'll work with dolphins and killer whales." Her dream wasn't just a childhood fantasy. It became a lifelong mission. She trained with discipline and determination, working harder than anyone else, learning every skill she could. Jessica never let fear or doubt slow her down. She pushed herself, step by step, toward the world she wanted, and eventually, she reached it. By the time she joined SeaWorld Orlando, Jessica was more than a trainer. She was a symbol. She wasn't just working with the whales. She was a face of the park, beloved by audiences, colleagues, and, it seemed, by the animals themselves. Guests came not only to see the massive orcas, but also to see her. And among the creatures she worked with, one stood out. His name was Tilikum. Tilikum wasn't like the others. He was enormous, the largest killer whale in captivity, more than 12,000 pounds of raw power, stretching 22 feet long. His sheer size alone set him apart. Many trainers were cautious around him, fully aware of his unpredictable behavior. But Jessica wasn't afraid. She believed in trust. She believed that with patience and consistency, even the most dangerous animal could form a bond strong enough to erase fear. Over the years, she and Tilikum developed what looked to outsiders like a genuine partnership. They performed together, flawlessly. Show after show, cue after cue, Jessica seemed to know his moods, his signals, his rhythm. It was as if she could read him like a book. For audiences, it was magical. For Jessica, it was proof that years of dedication could create a connection with a creature most people would never dare to approach. But the truth was far more complicated. February 24th, 2010. A warm, bright day at SeaWorld Orlando. Families gathered for the Dine with Shamu show, a highlight for visitors from all over the world. Parents snapped photos. Children pressed their faces against the glass, eager for the finale. And Jessica Radcliffe prepared as she always did, calm, confident, smiling. The show unfolded smoothly. Tilikum swam gracefully through the pool, responding to her every signal. The crowd was delighted, applauding each moment of the performance. Cameras rolled. Laughter filled the air, and then in an instant, everything changed. As Jessica crouched near the edge of the pool to cue Tilikum one final time, the orca lunged forward with terrifying speed. His jaws closed around her arm, pulling her into the water with brutal force. At first, many in the audience thought it was part of the act. The applause continued for a few seconds, but confusion spread quickly. The cheers turned to gasps, then to horrified screams. Tilikum thrashed violently, dragging Jessica deeper into the water, then pulling her back to the surface, only to force her under again. Trainers on the sidelines tried desperately to stop. Him, blowing whistles, shouting commands, banging on the water in an attempt to redirect his focus. Nothing worked. Tilikum ignored them all. For more than 20 agonizing minutes, the struggle continued. Families who had come for joy and wonder found themselves trapped in a nightmare, watching helplessly as Jessica fought for her life. Parents shielded their children's eyes. Some wept. Others screamed for help. By the time rescuers were able to reach her, it was too late. The woman who had given her life to the whales, who had trusted Tilikum above all others, was gone. News spread instantly. How could this have happened? Not to a new trainer, not to someone inexperienced, but to Jessica Radcliffe, one of the most respected figures in her field. In the days that followed, questions filled the headlines. Did she make a mistake? Was Tilikum hungry? Was he startled? Or was something much deeper at play? Investigators soon uncovered a darker truth. Tilikum wasn't a clean slate. He already had a history of violence. He had been linked to 2 previous deaths before Jessica's, and SeaWorld knew, but Tilikum was also their star. He was the largest orca in captivity, their biggest attraction, the centerpiece of their brand. He brought in millions of dollars in ticket sales and publicity. For the company, the risk was worth the reward. The warnings were overlooked. The danger was hidden. But Tilikum was never just a performer. He was also a prisoner. Captured from the wild as a young calf, he had been torn from his family pod in the icy waters of Iceland. In the wild, killer whales travel vast distances, up to 100 miles a day, living in close-knit family groups, communicating with a rich, complex language of calls and clicks. In captivity, Tilikum's world was reduced to tanks a fraction. Of that size, walls he circled endlessly, a life dictated by commands and food rewards. Isolation, confinement, and stress take a toll. Orcas are intelligent, emotional animals. Years of captivity don't just restrain them, they break them. And for Tilikum, the cracks showed in violence. Experts explained that his attack on Jessica wasn't sudden rage. It wasn't a random act of aggression. It was the explosion of trauma and frustration bottled up for decades. For SeaWorld, the tragedy was catastrophic. For Jessica's family and colleagues, it was devastating. For the public, it was a wake-up call. Documentaries, like Blackfish, revealed the hidden truths of orca captivity. They showed the psychological damage these animals suffer, the dangers trainers face, and the way corporations put profit above safety. Outrage followed. Protests erupted. Lawsuits piled up. SeaWorld's reputation crumbled. Ticket sales plummeted. Public opinion shifted. Eventually, the company announced the end of its orca breeding program and phased out its theatrical killer whale shows. It was a decision born out of pressure, not choice. But for many, it came far too late, because nothing could bring Jessica back. Jessica Radcliffe's life was defined by passion, love, and trust. She believed her years of experience could protect her. She believed she and Tilikum shared a bond beyond fear. But the truth was unavoidable. No matter how close, no matter how trusted, a wild animal is still wild. Her death became a symbol, not just of one woman's tragedy, but of a much larger truth. We cannot fully tame nature. We can only exist alongside it, and sometimes that delicate balance shatters. Jessica's story is heartbreaking. It is haunting, and it is unforgettable. Because in her final moments, the bond she believed unbreakable was torn apart, leaving behind a lesson the world will never forget. That love, loyalty, and trust can be powerful, but the raw force of the wild is stronger still.